Okay, that's it. We are live. Today is Friday, the 17th of August 2018. And today, so far on the panel, we have Flat Earth Dude, me, and Crrow777. Hello, Crrow777 and Flat Earth Dude.
Hello, Karen. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hello, Crow.
Good to see you, Crow.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm just trying to get things set here. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you good.
Okay,
Sound great.
I think I'm all set. I had 2 players going, so we should be good.
You touch something on your computer, that's it. Fatal. So how are you, Crow? Been a few weeks since we've seen you.
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Nothing to complain about.
Yeah, I've been looking at your podcasts. Some great, well, sad but great subjects there, if you know what I mean, because obviously you're making a point. That's why you're talking about them. I was looking at your podcasts 121, 120, 119, and 117. Yeah, I will remind you. The last one was with Jason, and it was about the 5G. So basically, there's 5 levels of data delivery. You in this podcast, you was basically saying that Arizona have gone for it, but in your podcast, you were asking what a millimeter wave was and what is an active denial system. And there's 5 cycles that this 5G does every second. And you also notice people like Rife, who we've talked about on Sun and Moon, because he has Rife machines, which are good for healing. And the Schumann's resonance, they were all much nicer frequencies than the ones they've got us on. And I also noticed you had said that the electronic field for the heart is much larger than the brain. And that was my comments. And I thought, right, I leave the rest for you, Crow.
Yeah, we have Matt Landman on. He's an activist who just never stops. He's always on something. He moves all the time to be dead center where he wants to be in the activism. I think what you meant to say is 5th generation. The amount of cycles per second is crazy for a millimeter wave. To put this into perspective, and I don't remember the exact number, I think Matt was citing trillions of cycles per second for a millimeter wave. But if we were to go back to music, which most people are familiar with, in 1936, they took the older frequencies, which there were a number of them. The one we always cite is 432 because it matches the Fibonacci sequence closer to something natural. They weaponized it with a simple 8 cycles a second going up to 440. So what that basically meant was if you went anywhere in the world to play with people in a concert hall, that middle A for an orchestra would be tuned to 440, every piano as well. And that was the weaponization. But we're talking about 440 cycles a second in that weaponization. Now, if I remember correctly, I think it was trillions of cycles a second that Matt Landman was citing for the millimeter wave.
So I didn't explain exactly what the whole hangout was about. I mean, so your whole podcast was about. I thought I'd leave that to you, but obviously it's not good for us, is it, any of this?
No RF signals are good for the human body, as far as I know. I was a radio operator in the Marine Corps, and we were told flat out, you don't hang out by antennas. There were certain antennas that you didn't get anywhere near, and you sure as hell didn't stand in front of them, or you get cooked. And that's basically what we're talking about. But in the modern era, people have been fooled. They even warn you with memes in Hollywood. Men in Black, one of the guys says, hey man, don't put that cell phone on your head, it'll give you cancer. They've known for a long time that something as simple as a cell phone, these are terrible frequencies to be holding up to your head. And now that we've gotten to 5G, it's about to get all the worse.
Do you see it some way of controlling us, or it's not really about that, it's actually about our phones?
It's going to be tough. We brought this up for a reason, because they have legislated all these laws, some at the federal level, some at state levels, where they're trying to make a law that says, you know what, you can't sue to stop this, even for medical reasons. And that's nonsense. I'm a living man. I'm only subject truly to one thing in this world, and that's natural law. It will dictate when I'm born. It will dictate when I die. Natural law is what I am subject to, and I don't give a damn what law, statute, or other fictitious nonsense is invented. We, in fact, have a right to stand up against things that are harmful to us, and all RF that is current technology is harmful. It's just that millimeter waves seems to be that on steroids, and people can go look up the active denial system. I saw one that was astounding on YouTube. It was with a reporter where they were going to blast him with the ADS, active denial system, which is also millimeter waves using the same technology as the 5G networks. And they only pulse him for a second or two, but it almost looked to me like you could see, it looked like a vapor shield or a steam shield. When they hit him with it, you could see it just momentarily, and you can see his reaction. And to put a fine point on it, millimeter waves have been weaponized for a hell of a long time. So you're not going to convince me that the powers that be aren't legislating these bogus laws and other things, because they know damn well it's the same thing as the, apparently Matt brought this up, the backscatter radar. So that might not even be the right word. The scanners at the airport are using a similar technology. And according to Matt, there's already getting to be employees that work around these things that are reporting high cancer rates. I can't speak to that because I didn't do research in that avenue, but it would not surprise me.
Yeah, it seems like they're not really testing this out in public to show us will happen with 5G. It's all sort of being stuck up, and no one's sort of like, what do you mean we've got all this system being set up? And I don't think it's been properly tested. Because if it was, it'd be public knowledge, and they'd be having, tests of it. It'd be a few years of it, and then they'd introduce it. They've just stuck it up.
Well, let me maybe go at that a different way. This is our own damn fault. We all, there's no culture in the United States. I don't know how it is where you live. What culture comes down to here is we watch some TV and we like some movies. And I'm not even kidding. That's basically American culture at this point. If people would take their damn faces out of their cell phones and just look up, we have been warned. In France, they outlawed cell towers anywhere near a school because they said it's bad for children. And I think it was Spain, if I'm remembering correctly, they've outlawed 5G in many ways. And this is what blows my mind. As I did the research, I came across a statement that claimed in Russia they outlawed microwave ovens in like 73, somewhere in the 70s, because they understood that that is harmful radiation. And think about what's gone on here. Where I live, there's a microwave in every kitchen. So it's kind of, in a way, we're like the zebra at the watering hole. The lion kills the zebra. If the zebra would have been paying more attention, maybe that lion wouldn't have killed him. Well, that's us. That's a perfect allegory for us, because the information is out there. It is not hard to understand that active denial weapon systems is the same technology. It is not hard to look up what France has done to outlaw cell towers near their children. It is not hard to understand what other places in Europe have said about 5G. And it's just that simple. Would you rather go see the next Walt Disney Snow White movie, or would you rather pay attention to the antennas that are being put up on every city block? That's what it comes down to. Yes.
And, I know that the school that my children went to, there's those things on top of the schools. I thought in Europe, they don't have any of those, things near schools with children in it. They're on top of this school in Hungerford. They've rented it out, haven't they, to them? It's not good, is it, with children studying below it with all that above them?
The whole thing's beyond the pale. People have already forgotten when cell towers first started to go up. A lot of people said, no, you're not putting that here. And it became like this thing where people sold out. Like a farmer would have a field and they would offer him so much money, he'd say, sure, put a cell tower there. But initially, as cell towers started to go up everywhere, there was a big stigma attached to it. People didn't want that in their backyard. And we've kind of come so far beyond that. But the ironic thing is the big argument that they're putting forward, that for the reason we need 5G, this quick internet, here in the United States, they're stating because we need cars that can drive themselves, we need augmented reality, and we need to be able to download HD movies lickety split so we can watch them anywhere. There's your argument in this country for 5G. And it's beyond the pale for people not to pay attention and to understand that millimeter waves travel about 100 feet, give or take. You can find the stated different. It's just not very far, which means in any given city situation, when 5G is here, there will be one on every street corner, but millimeter waves don't go through walls. So that means when you go into the store to continue to have internet connection, there needs to be antennas in there. But here in the United States, it's almost a little hard to swallow. They're claiming that they're going to cover every inch of the United States. And when you have a millimeter wave that doesn't travel that far, that means up the side of every mountain antennas and everything else. And so just the infrastructure alone, it's a bit hard to fathom how this happens. And then you start to say,
strange, don't you think, Crow, that if we've got so much coming through cable, like televisions and all this kind of stuff, why couldn't they have done the phones like that?
Because
television can come through everybody's house, everybody can get cable, it can all come through under the, so why couldn't they have done it under the,
because they're culling the herd. They're culling the herd. But the irony here is that the herd is saying, yes, please give me this. And people need to quit being zebras at watering holes. That's what it comes down to. If you don't stand up, then that is taken as acceptance by the group of people who control things in our world. And you know, they're trying, you turn on television these days and they're trying to convince you that pretty quick we're going to have another 2 billion people in the world and we're not going to have enough food and water is going to be, that's a lie. Jason and I just did research that showed the majority of white populations have almost hit a point where they can no longer replenish themselves. Many Asian populations, the few populations we found that are growing are Catholic populations in Mexico, a bunch of Muslim populations, a bunch of Black populations, but most other ones we looked at, like the big places in Europe, France, are hitting a critical mass where, according to the birth rate statistics, if they get much lower, they've never historically seen a population recover from this. So it's all a shell game. And so when you see harmful technologies like this being sold for a whole country, what do you think it's about? Is it really that we need cars that can drive themselves? Is it really that we need to be able to watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs lickety split wherever we are? There's more to it than that. And you know, anyone can do the research and understand that millimeter waves are unhealthy, period. It's just what it is. You know, we could think back to a time in the 50s when doctors were coming on television to recommend what cigarette had the best flavor. Are you telling me that in the 50s, the doctors didn't understand that inhaling smoke was bad for the human body? Well, of course they did. But nonetheless, it was some decades later when the tobacco company even came close to admitting that this is not healthy. And finally, doctors started recommending the most flavorful cigarette. That's, in a way, what's going on here. They get the infrastructure in, it becomes the norm for society, and then undoing it becomes a very difficult thing to do.
Yes, they also don't mind us having our telephones, do they? Because they can track us on there. Our telephones say exactly where we've been and what we've done.
Well, I think the argument for 5G can also be attached to the transhumanism push. And it's further down the road than most people think. As a matter of fact, my wife came home today and told me she saw a guy when she was up at the store that had an interface for his ear in his skull. This is all headed towards transhumanism. And I would, I would point out another thing. You know, right now with human consciousness rising in certain parts of the world, could it be that we were only a decade or two away from being able to communicate without speech, think to each other? Is that a possible consideration? If it is, I would submit this. The actual existence of cell phones retards that ability from ever being exercised and taken further down the road. In other words,
it's not just talking in person. We don't, I mean, people can have a relationship on the telephone now, can't they, really? Just passing text to each other. We just don't talk.
Well, what if we were only 10 years away from many people having psychic ability where they could speak to each other through their minds? Having a cell phone retards that. It's like a muscle that never gets used if you're to think about it. And in everything I've read from the oldest texts, that is the idea that human beings keep, you know, that was the whole idea for the Superman cartoon, is the idea there was at some point, human beings all become super people. That's the idea being encoded in Superman. So I would, suggest that all this technology is retarding the human ability. I mean, after all, how many people can spell anymore? without the aid of an electronic device? How many people can handwrite? How many people can do all these things that was expected of a fifth grader a generation or two, but it's all getting lost because now all you need is your cell phone or your computer. Even math, you know, you don't need to do math anymore. You've got a computer. These things are all retarding human ability. And if it is true that human beings can lift up to become these amazing beings, I would suggest that all this technology is in fact meant to stifle that. Because people who lift up very hard, you know, high and become high-minded, they can't be controlled anymore with ridiculous things.
No, can I just say that Patricia's joined us. Hello, Patricia. She might just come on and say hello in a moment. She might just sit there and listen. Yeah, I was realizing, because obviously I was looking more at the numbers of your podcasts, and on there you've got Now We Are Cooking. That's what you put as the title of that podcast.
It's basically what the active denial system does. Go look it up. So Matt Landman points out that just prior to 5G, the waves would heat you under the skin, and so it wouldn't be as obvious to you were getting cooked. But the 5G can be configured in such a way that they actually call it a heat wave or a pain wave. And I'm telling everyone listening, go look up active denial systems, and you will see video after video. Look for the one with the reporter getting blasted for 2 seconds. It's a scary damn thing. And if you think about it, what if all these 5G antennas go up 100 feet from each other all over the country till the whole country is covered in 5G, and then one day everyone wakes up and says, we don't like this 5G thing, we want to do away with it, so we're going to go out to the streets and protest? What if those very same antennas now become active denial systems and easily disperse anyone from protesting or these other things? I'm not saying that's where it's headed, but I'm saying it's the same technology. And how many times have we seen in the past where a thing is implemented and gradually over time it becomes more unhelpful? I think the potential for 5G is there all day long.
Yeah, and I've noticed, like, there's so many things that are wrong. Like, there's so many videos on YouTube where people have said even that they can, you know, the mistakes that NASA are making. You would have thought that one politician would have gone, yeah, there's something wrong here, but they're staying well away from it. Like these things, they stay well away from it, when really these are the things that they should be debating in parliaments and Congress and everything, is what this will do. You know, they should be looking at this kind of stuff rather than the Dynasty Dallas thing that they've got going.
Well, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, episode 119 we just did to demonstrate what political parties are, nonsense, and what governments are. Any government that has a central bank is basically a corporation. So these people are bought and paid for. They're chosen, they're sold, they're removed if they become a problem. Unfortunately, government, you know, anywhere with a central bank, it doesn't look like anything to do with the government is a way to fix anything. These places are corporations, for crying out loud. And, you know, people want to understand what that means. Go look up what it means. Like if you actually truly elect someone, which we don't in the United States, and we demonstrated that outright. The Electoral College does that, which is an old boys club. It says people are kind of too weak-minded to go look up what they were taught in high school, that your vote doesn't seat a president. Point here is if you actually elected someone and you got tired of them, you could impeach them. Well, now look at a corporation. If you don't like Walmart, can you take a vote and fire Walmart, that corporation? Doesn't work that way. And Washington, D.C. is a corporation. The City of London is a corporation. The political entities attached to these supposed places, they're corporations. And so, yeah, man, the weave is getting woven tighter and tighter and tighter. The real issue is when technologies like 5G come around, I mean, you're looking at a technology that's been weaponized. So I would ask, are we just going to get unhealthy waves that are basically cooking us? Or is there an actual possibility that all these antennas are weaponizable with the flip of a switch? You know, people, when cell towers went up, people screamed about this all day, saying it was a hair's breadth from microwave weapon technology. And as I pointed out earlier in the episode, apparently, and I've had it confirmed by 2 sources, people who claim to have lived there, in the early 70s, microwave ovens were outlawed in Russia because they were recognized to be harmful. And microwaves are not quite up to par with what millimeter waves driving 5G are. It's a much smaller and more rapid wave. They're in the same ballpark, but it seems to be getting worse all the time.
Yeah, because they, microwave, it'll just really affect the people all sorts of ways, emotionally, mentally, physically, won't it?
Well, heck, in the reading I was doing about microwave ovens, the claim is if you boil water with one, you've changed the molecular structure to be something unhealthy. And the claim is also that food is that. But that's not even really the real reason cited for Russia outlawing this technology, if that's in fact true. It was that the bleed over radiation, if you're standing anywhere near your microwave, it's harmful. It can cause cancer and other things. And they started listing all these tables. If you're 10 feet away from your microwave, this much radiation gets you. If you're 15 feet away from, and I started to think, how many people have a kitchen that's big enough to get you 20 feet away from your microwave? It's all ridiculous, man. The technologies that we have adopted because now we can take frozen dinners and zap them in 2 minutes. It's crazy. It's shortening lifespans. It's contributing to cancer. Hard to know all the things that it does because the people who allowed this to happen clearly are not showing the other side of the coin until they're forced to do so.
No, I suppose we could now go on to like the other one I was looking at was podcast 120. If you are red or blue, you really do not get the gist of things. And that's all to do with the fact that history's a lie. There's no democracy, secret societies. And have they really thought about the best interest of the people? No.
Well, here in this country where I am, one of the biggest divisions of the people is you're either a Democrat or you're a Republican. And it's a sad day because they don't understand what the political parties were designed to do. I give a quote from the governor of the Bank of England, which is the model that all central banks were built on. In 1924, the governor of the Bank of England, the central bank that would become the model for most other central banks, went to the United States. And in 1924, he gave a speech to a bunch of bankers. And what he basically says is, we will design and use political parties to divide the people and to get them to expend their energy on arguments and problems that have no importance. That's straight from the horse's mouth. Political parties are nonsense. And not only that, people usually join one or the other parties in this country because they think they're voting for a president, which is also nonsense. The Electoral College does that. In this country, 13 original colonies, we are told, set this up. The state of Rhode Island showed up while the other 12 were putting together the Electoral College, and they said, what the hell are you guys doing? You're putting a backdoor to power in place so that the same people that have always been in power can continue to be in power unchallenged. And the state of Rhode Island walked out and would not participate. And they were telling the truth. And anyone with half a brain that wants to remember what they were told in high school about the Electoral College can come to understand that the vote that goes on election night in the United States has no portion, no part, takes no anything in seating the president. It is in fact the Electoral College, which an endless number of times has seated a president against what's called the popular vote. And as I've pointed out so many times, one of the presidents, I think it's Benjamin Harrison, who was seated against the popular vote. His descendants run a ridiculous television show here called Pawn Stars. So if you can't put 2 and 2 together, I don't know what to add here. And people will argue all day long. You see it all the time. Oh, those snowflake, Democrat libertards and these Republican tards. And it's ridiculous. It's people arguing about a thing that was put together to divide them and has no sway over any political thing that matters. And the bankers talked about it openly in 1924. Anyone can go look up the speech Montague Norman gave in 1924. We could have simply read the Bankers Manifesto and left that the only part of that episode because that's all you really need to know.
We don't even need governments anymore. That's what I think a lot of flat earthers believe now. I mean, what good do they do? In the past, I've tried to go to my MP for a few things, and basically all he turns around and says to me is, well, I can't do education, I can't do money, I can't do health, can't do this. So I wrote to him and I said, so what are you there for then? You can't go to them anymore because they can't help you. they send you to the council or ombudsmans now, and the ombudsmans are all fake and lying. So it's all just one big joke. We don't need MPs anymore. We don't need them. We can see it.
In a way, the majority of the developed world societies have been turned into children. And if you think about it, if a person is an adult human being, they can take care of themselves. They can get along with their neighbor. They can help people in need. That's what an adult does. We've come a long way from that. And I agree. You could, in fact, make the argument that if we had an adult society, what the hell do we need government for? If everybody simply relied on something as simple as common law, which basically says, as long as my sovereignty doesn't infringe on your sovereignty, no laws have been broken here. If we reached a higher mind level like that, I think you could easily ask, do we need something called government? But who knows the real truth about that? In my lifetime, I've never known anything but a divisive government system. But I will maintain, if people begin to grow up and truly care about their neighbor and truly do their best not to injure other people, the need for so many of these nonsense laws we get and other things, that there becomes no need for these things, right? Because everyone's conducting themselves like grown-up adults.
Yeah, and I mean, in reality, considering how many people there really are in the world, we probably do behave all quite well, really. Well, we don't need them anyway. They would how badly. I mean, you just go on YouTube, everybody's just being arrested. That's all you see.
Well, that's part of the mindset. Television, movies, they all push this lower mindset. And you're right.
Though, are they?
Well, it's a catch-22.
People. We're not fighting.
Right. It's a catch-22. It's a difficult to get out from under where we find ourselves. But the problem is if we don't try, we're going to get what's given us. And, that's why we're talking about 5G here. In the United States, they've already started rolling it out as quickly as they can in the state of Arizona. Even many of those antennas apparently are made to look like cactus. And from a distance, you can't even tell the difference. Go online and look up a 5G antenna that looks like a cactus, and you'll realize instantly, if you were 100 feet away from it, you wouldn't even be able to tell that's not a real cactus. Point is, by 2020, they're wanting to roll out across most of the country. So the question becomes, if this is truly harmful technology that is easily weaponized, what responsibility do any of us have? I would submit that each of us has a responsibility to determine whether we think it's unhealthy, whether it's weaponizable, and whether this should be on every street corner. And if people do the research...
They've changed things around quite a lot in the last few years. It's not like mobile phones have been around that long, like everybody's got one. And, now it's 2G, 3G, 4G, 5... What, is this going to be 6G as well? 7G, 8G, 9G, 10G?
Well, we're never going to wake up and hear on the news that technology went backwards today, are we? We're never going to wake up and have the news person say, guess what? We got tired of technology, so starting tomorrow, we're not going to make more, technology anymore. We're going to go backwards. We're going to go back to pen and paper, of course.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the communities and do things in the communities, for the communities. Yeah, not going to hear that one, are we, really?
Well, we could. The thing that everyone usually remembers from their childhood that they love, it's about nature, isn't it? It's about the world that we still have. All this technology seeks to make an artificial existence where the people who control the technology are in a way kings. They can't be kings of this world. It's not possible. This place was made by a creator, or however it got here, it's not theirs to claim kingship over. So they're weaving this artificial technological world that they can in fact claim kingship over. And most of it is very unhealthy. I mean, how many times have you watched a movie that tried to convince you that back in the cowboy and Indian days, no one lived past 45? You see, they're trying to make it look like living to 75 or 80 is great. And I don't accept that. I think there were times in an obscured history where people lived a lot longer than we're living now. And I think a big part of it is the corporatization of food, all this technology that's coming to bear. And you're absolutely right. What is 6G? What is 7G? Seemingly, it's probably going to be more harmful than 5G. What they're claiming is there's no more frequency ranges that they can use now. And that to me is a bit ironic, because in my lifetime, all television came over the air. Well, not too long ago, all television went digital. So those bandwidths that were being used, who knows what they're, I should look that up, what they're being used for now, but what they're claiming to push 5G is these millimeter waves are the only spectrum we have left. That's part of the argument that's being put forward.
Hello?
Did you lose me?
Just for a second, I don't know, but there you go. We're talking about very serious things. It was happening last night. We were just really talking about things, and it was a little bit in and out. I don't know if it's me, but yeah, just the last sentence.
I was basically just agreeing with you. Yeah, absolutely. There's a 6G and a 7G. Technology is never going to go in reverse. So the question becomes, does it continue to get worse and worse and worse? And what we have seen so far is, yes, it has. It went from cells through microwave, and now we're all the way up into millimeter waves that are called 5G, and it can be demonstrated.
Probably
these
helps
things
with their heart concern and stuff, doesn't it? Probably helps with heart, all this.
Well, Matt Landman started to tie it to chemtrailing, how all this is going to tie into weather modification. Yeah, it's all a big game, man.
It's horrible. We're just the guinea pigs. Anybody thinks that they treat us like humans, we're just like the animals in those places. Your next podcast was about central banking, but I was going to go to 117. Subliminal programming, and you were talking to this guy Nick who was 16. It was about the Beatles. He was explaining that, yeah, first of all, he didn't believe there was a fake Paul McCartney, but the more he looked into it, his eyes changed color, his teeth, his earlobes, his signature, yeah, it seems that there is a second Paul McCartney at least.
Well, there's no doubt. The guy calls himself Sir Paul McCartney now, is not the original Paul we saw pre-1966. But not only that, Sir Paul McCartney, the current Paul, has written a book that says as much. It's called Billy's Back. And he says all kinds of things. Many parts of the book are a little much for me, but he flat out says, yeah, man, he was swapped out. The other guy died.
Yeah, you're quite amazed that he was quite young doing this. Not many people his age would have done this kind of research.
It's the whole reason I had him on. It gave me real hope for the generations behind me. You know, I look at my nephews and other people of that generation, and they're going to be the people that matter in all this. When the crap hits the fan, it will likely be the people who were born in the mid-90s who are standing front and center. People my age will be older than dirt or dead. And most of those kids are being sucked into video games and cell phones and all these unhelpful things. And lo and behold, here was this 16-year-old young man who had used his higher mind, common sense, and challenged a thing that he didn't even think was possible. And anyone can go check it out. He's an amazing young man. It gives me hope for the next generation. I hope we see a lot more young people like him.
And they were doing all this kind of stuff even in the 60s, but people didn't notice so much because obviously they're a generation that were coming out of wars, although the wars were over, but there was rationing and everything would still been, you know, still picking up from the Second World War. And then comes this band, and then nobody would have been looking the same, would they? No. I don't think people were looking, because television was like in its height. We were looking at cowboy movies, war movies.
Well, that's another thing too. You know, it's like the moon landing back in the day when they actually filmed the moon landing off a black and white monitor, because that's what everyone was showing. No one really had a way to record it and review it. So you got one shot, and the Beatles stories is much the same. You know, you got shown what you got shown. Here's an album cover. Here's a publicity shot. Oh, look, they're on Ed Sullivan tonight. But for the most part, people could not review the material. Well, where we are now, there's one upside to technology. We can review this stuff till the cows come home, and we can rip it apart all day long.
So do you also believe that it's not the same Paul McCartney then?
It's provably, yeah, it's provably not the same Paul McCartney. And I would be surprised if each of the Beatles didn't have a double of some sort. But, you know, the other thing is, most people don't realize that all the Beatles music everyone loves was written after 1966. That none of that was ever toured live. As a matter of fact, you couldn't. A four-piece band could not play the music off those albums. It was never played live until, like, I don't know, maybe Beatlemania or some other new band like that had synthesizers that could play 2 or 3 parts at once. So it was all, you know, the product of studio. And so if you look at it carefully, you can see it for what it is. It's social programming.
Even that one, because obviously I came across that a few years ago about Paul McCartney. I mean, it's like, why didn't I? The only thing I was going to say to you that I watched a video the other day, and they said they were reckoning that the reason that the Mandela effect is there is that the people who wake up, it's a Mandela effect. Those that are asleep don't see it, so it's not a Mandela effect. And so that would be it, because it's like, well, I never heard anything like that before in my life about Paul McCartney. Yeah, it is all over the internet.
Well, I mean, most of the people were too busy loving the music to even consider things like this, right? And that's kind of like spellcraft. If you've already made up your mind that you love a thing, are you ever going to take the time to scrutinize it, look at it carefully, or challenge it? And that's part of the game here.
I think what they did, I think they were trying to be really clever, because before the Second World War, you know, even a story about something that had happened in the war could have taken days to get back and then reported, because they didn't, you know, it just wasn't like today. And then they started taking us to the wars, which is what, like, the Middle East was about. We were there as it was happening. Have you noticed that they've stopped that now, really? They're just reporting it, really. You don't see what you saw in the 90s when they took you there.
Well, what was that called? They embedded the reporters. So those reporters were in bed with the unit they were attached to. That's not what journalism is supposed to be about. Journalism is supposed to be the fourth estate and all this other nonsense where they challenge, you know, anything to get to the truth. And in fact, what was going on is they were embedded. Tells you everything you need to know. You know, the show must go on. And, you know, by the time we reached the 90s and the first Gulf War, I was in the Marine Corps at that time. I was in during the first Gulf War. All the media had been bought up by that time by very few people. These were all controlled systems. So, you know, did we ever get a fair view of any war that's ever been? You know, when World War II was going on, almost everyone was being shown newsreels in Hollywood theaters. You would see a newsreel before your movie. I've taken those apart and I've said, Pearl Harbor is not what you thought. The Battle of Midway is not what you thought. For that matter, the supposed nuclear bomb drops, those were fire bombs, probably, but they were not nuked. There's never been a time when people, animals, plants didn't live in those places. So the idea that they were nuked, which destroys cells, is provably nonsense. And that's the least
really
of...
sorry. Like basically, I think there's still parts of England where you can't have meat from it because those plumes of radiation came over. Yeah, I watched this program like Chernobyl. If you're this side of the line, you can actually move back to 5 miles to Chernobyl, and you think what?
Oh,
and then the same in they're moving back.
Radiation doesn't exist as it's described. There was even a guy named Windsor. I don't know what to think about him, but he apparently was fired from the early 70s nuclear physicist arena, and he used to go around the country eating uranium or plutonium and then using a Geiger counter and showing everyone it's just heat. It's just heat. As a matter of fact, many people have put forward, well, not many, but I think some very bright people have put forward that things like plutonium or uranium are very critical to alchemy, and that's why they've outlawed it, so people can't get their hands on it. The Philosopher's Stone, or the idea of these things, is a whole different conversation, but the point I would make is nuclear radiation doesn't exist as it's been described to you, and the idea that something is polluted that you can't eat because of this is nonsense. It's utter wholesale nonsense. Go back and look at Anthony frickin' Bourdain go to Chernobyl with an X-ray badge on and then tell you with a straight face, oh, we can go in here for 45 minutes. By the way, the wildlife is flourishing. The trees are flourishing. Everything is flourishing. And then there's the problem. Radiation attacks and kills cells. The two things don't work. The explanations you've been given why radiation is dangerous does not work with what we can observe. The same is true of the Bikini Atoll, which, by the way, was Operation Crossroad. That's just alchemy. It's a mind screw. They're alchemically manipulating minds with Operation Crossroads. I've taken these things apart. Nuclear pollution and nuclear weapons do not exist as they're described. I will predict here and now that there will never be a time when old North Korea fires a nuke at anyone. You know why? Because he doesn't have them. There is no
Not
little red button that can.
Most of these countries are behind whoever they are, the ones above. They're all working together. They're all together. Any country that's got HARP in it, they're all work together. There's hardly any free countries anymore. And those that are left, they're destroying them, aren't they?
Well, you know, I actually just glanced over. I didn't realize there was a chat going on with this. I was on my other monitor. Someone's mentioning Fukushima. Here's a funny thing. I would say about a week, maybe 2 weeks after Fukushima had happened, there was a clip on YouTube, which got removed pretty quickly, of a dude, a Japanese guy in shorts, flip-flops, and a t-shirt, shows up at Fukushima, puts a camera down, walks all the way back in up to where the reactors are, walks all around, walks back up to the camera, holds his hands up like, what in the F is going on here? That was available for a long time. Fukushima was a land grab. So was Chernobyl. For all you know, they're putting underground places, or who knows what they might be doing. Hard to know since everyone's afraid to go there.
Do you know something else I find strange about it? I don't know. The other couple of weeks ago, I got into tsunamis, and it seems that Japan doesn't just have one. They have loads of these things coming in. Yeah, they may only be a bit of Japan, 5 miles of shoreland they're destroying and killing all the people. But why would they then stick a nuclear power station on a place that's probably likely to get a tsunami?
It's all BS. Nukes do not exist as described. There's no such thing as nuclear poisoned radiation. Doesn't exist. You know, when Fukushima went off, the whole thing was, oh, this is all going to wash over to California, where I was at the time. And then lo and behold, come to find out, they had turned off all the supposed radiation monitors to get people up in arms and scream. And then pretty soon they're claiming all the debris from that tsunami is washing up in the northern coasts and all this other stuff. It's all a mind warp, man. There is no magic red button that can destroy this world. There just isn't.
Thank goodness for that one, then.
Anyone could logically challenge these things and come to understand what I have said is true. A good place to start is with Operation Crossroad at the Bikini Atoll. Even the video of those blasts going off can be shown to be manufactured. But, you know, it was funny. Not too long ago, I saw a television show where they were claiming they found a shark with 3 eyes. I think it actually had more fins than it was supposed to. And they said, see, here's proof that the Simpsons were right and nuclear radiation creates weird monsters. And so I asked the simple question. If we can't go to the Bikini, well, we can go to the Bikini Atoll, but you're told if you eat anything from there, a coconut or a crab, that you will die, then what the hell did the crab eat? What the hell did the coconut eat? What the hell is that shark eating? It's all logical nonsense.
Yeah, Bikini Atoll is an interesting study.
It's a land grab, like every nuclear blast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's another land grab or another psychological. Keep away from here. Stay out.
Here's another critical point. I love to watch old Japanese film, and there was one that I saw where a samurai needed a new master, and so he shows up at this new place to hopefully get a new master so he can be a samurai, and he comes up and says something to the effect that I am from the Fukushima clan of Hiroshima. My freaking mouth fell open. The thing is the Fukushima area was from the feudal times, a big center of samurai who had been reenacting with their 300-year-old armor, 500-year-old armor all this time. What it is a land grab. And in Japan, you know, it costs more to own the land than the swimming pool you could put on it. That's why you don't see swimming pools in Japan, because the land is so valuable. They don't have enough land. But Fukushima was a land grab, and it's no different than Chernobyl or any other thing that people have been scared away. And by the way, people aren't aware, if you get enough TNT and blow it up, it makes a mushroom cloud. You can look it up online to know it's true.
Oh, it just seems incredible. So you think that, like, maybe that word seems to be a number or a name word game? So you think these things come up because this is part of the game?
All words have meaning, and whenever they're doing their worldwide chess game for worldwide domination. Quite often we see things encoded, but all words have meaning. Most of us need to go look up words, but anytime you see something like crossroads, that's an alchemical encoding right there. You can find it in the movie Crossroad, or in the song Crossroad Blues. You can find it in the movie about the crossroads. The whole idea of going to the crossroads and selling your soul to the devil, it's all alchemical encoding. In those cases, it's about the sun going down to its low point, or hell, at the winter solstice. These things are all encoding other ideas. I've even gone so far as to show that the rooster is big in alchemy and the Masonic circles. People can go look up, what is it? Hoaxbuster on YouTube. He did one of the best clips I've ever seen since I've been on YouTube, showing that Marie Curie, who discovered fake nuclear radiation, is actually Mercury. Marie Curie, Mercury, the name game. That's all invented, and he shows you why, and he shows you the importance of the rooster and all these other things. Well, of course, this all ties into the nuclear idea, since Marie Curie is their excuse to act like they discovered a thing that doesn't exist so they could scare everyone. Of course, by the time you get up to Hiroshima, it's done in the year of the rooster. Hint, hint, hint. Yeah, it's all encoded. It's a big shell game because most of us don't understand, and the people who do understand are probably laughing until they can't breathe.
Marie Curie, that was an amazing piece, man, that guy put together. I absolutely was floored.
If there was an Academy Award for YouTube clips, that's where I would award it.
Right?
When I saw that, it put so many things in place instantaneously for me. Right. It changed everything for me. I had all these things I couldn't quite put together, and that 1 3-minute clip, that was it, man. It was game changed.
It was a shocker. It was fabulous.
Done at such a high-minded level.
Not to change the subject too much. You're an optical videographer, astronomer. There's a couple of there was a PhD that did a 28-mile test of the curvature. I don't know if you got to see that.
I doubt it. I don't look at a lot of YouTube and other things. Usually I'll wait for Jason to say something about them.
All right. It's on Paul on the Plane. He has it on his channel. It was 28 miles, no curvature. Then there was another one from like Maine. I don't know. It was 220-mile infrared. Have you seen any of the infrared footage?
No. I would actually be interested in seeing some of that. Yeah.
Taboo Conspiracy Channel. Taboo Conspiracy Channel. He has 220 miles. Video infrared. You can make out downtown Boston, 220 miles away.
Well, that's how I finally got there. I took a high-end telephoto out to a lake in the desert and did the calculation, and I could see much further than I should have. There's no going back from that. You can't explain that away.
Right.
I suspect if I had to level a guess, and this is a guess, I don't think anyone knows the true shape of where we are, because they can't get outside of the closed system we're in. So nobody knows what's below or whatever. But that's not to take away anything from all the people who are challenging it. And that's another thing, you see all these people, oh, the globe tards, oh, the flat tards, and this is programming to try to divide and conquer. What should be going on?
Tavistock playbook.
Yeah, exactly. People should be saying, oh, that's interesting. Tell me what you know, and debating it, not insulting one another.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Enslaved by No Media channel? He's reckoning that when you're looking out there, when they showed you those big sundogs, but with sundog and a sundog and a sundog, and like on the mountains. He's reckoning that's how we see the light. So it could be that you're this distance away and everything looks really big, and then you can go a few miles closer and everything looks really small, and yet you're closer. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I've heard people reference that channel. The only thing I really took time to look at was his idea that planes weren't running on jet fuel, which I thought was an interesting idea. As I began to calculate out weight and stuff, it seemed like a pretty sound argument, but I never got to go very far. But that's all I've seen from him that I've looked at very carefully.
It's just that this is how maybe things look like they do, and maybe why planes, you know, they're not flying as high as they say they are, and they actually look closer. But I mean, I watched one, I just caught it. It was going through my phone, and he was going, look, there's a little plane, and it's going really fast, and it's taking a long time, and it's going there, and it's only that high. But look at this big plane going past. It's going much slower, and there's a lot more on board. So, you know, like an airliner has much cargo. So this thing is laden with thousands of tons of things and people, and then you've got the aircraft, what's in it, and then you've got obviously some fuel of some kind for something, but not like they say. But there's just a lot of weight, and then this plane can sort of go up over your head at 30-40 miles an hour. So I think that's why this levitation thing comes in, because something's not right, is it?
Well, it goes to show the importance of just average people like you and I everywhere challenging things, challenging it all. And not only that, if you've got a camera, every bored moment of your life, hit record, make a record of something you're looking at. We live in an era where very few things should happen in our world that don't get recorded in HD. And these are the things that will further a conversation, because unfortunately, since Hollywood is so popular everywhere in this world, if you don't have some good HD video, most people won't even think about it. But everybody needs to get involved in challenging this illusion that we call life.
Absolutely.
It's slowly happening, isn't it? Because I'm sure, like, say, even only a few years ago, there'd have been a certain amount of people and little channels, but now there's so much, even flat, whatever it is, there's so much to look at. YouTube is an abyss. There's a load of people saying things now, isn't there? There's more people saying, but
yeah,
we need more.
It is, and there's a lot of unhelpful people. And by the way, there's a lot of bots out there. I think on average, each day when I wake up, I kick out 10 to 15 sock puppet bot channels. They almost always have a negative connotation in their name. They have no icon, and they're a sock puppet channel.
No subs.
When you go to it, you can see these things. But if you seek, you will find. I mean, anyone who gets on the internet has the potential to find my podcast or what you're doing here or someone else that they can use common sense to vet. And then if they don't find a problem with it, they found a place where they can find new information. And that is out of the control of AI bots and trolls. And believe me, that's another thing. Every day I must kick out 5 or 10 people from the gaming community because whether it's AI disguised as gamers or just secret agents in the gamer system, they come in and they try to cause trouble and they try to shed doubt or start fights. A higher-minded person won't fall for these things. And again, if you seek, you will find.
Yeah, and that's what you liked about that young man that did the Paul McCartney thing, because you have to do it. It isn't a 5-minute job of researching, is it?
Right. I actually saw him on Sage of Quay, who I've interviewed with a couple times. That's how I found out about him. But truly, Nick, that young man, gives me hope for the next generation.
Nick's amazing, man. Dude, that was insane. I was like, this guy knows more about the Beatles than the Beatles.
Well, that's actually true. There's footage of the guy from Oasis claiming he knows more about the Beatles than the current Paul McCartney.
Exactly. So that was just a fascinating show. Thanks for that one. I'm a couple shows behind on your channel there, man. Sorry.
Yeah. It's so sad that, like you were talking about the press, not even the press can be free and real.
They're corporations. They're owned and operated. They have been for our lifetime. Go watch the movie Citizen Kane. You know, that's back. I was saying 33. I don't think it's actually 1933. I think it's actually 1943, or at least that's closer. The movie Citizen Kane is often voted the best movie out of Hollywood for all time. But in that movie, they're making fun. This guy is rich. He buys a newspaper and he starts making up fake wars. And when the country that the fake war is about calls up and says, what the hell are you doing? There's no war here. He tells the country, of course there is. It just ran in the paper. I guarantee you there's a war there. That's all the way back in the 40s. We've never had free press or free papers here. We've had the illusion of that.
Yeah, I think we would have grown up thinking it was real. Now we know that it isn't.
That's right. We were all fooled into thinking that we had freedom of speech and all these other things. And that all went to hell in a handbasket. The fall of 2017, in the fall, free speech got flushed down the toilet, and everyone here listening knows it to be true. So what does that tell you about all your lifetime being told you have freedom of speech, you have freedom of thought, you have freedom of expression, and yet Google begs to differ? But you see, Google's no different than the news, than the airwaves for television, than newspapers, all owned by the same rich families.
Do you know something, Crow? Even with Google, they know that if you don't screen share properly, you're going to show the link. The big organization like they're doing has been going on in the last few months on YouTube, and they can't even check that, and they don't want to because that allows the snipers to come in.
Google should be ashamed of itself. You couldn't pay me with love or money to own Google. You couldn't do it. They're a disgrace to humanity. To come in and think they can stifle free speech and free thought, that's among the highest crimes you can commit in my book. Maybe the only higher crime than that is taking somebody's life, but it comes damn close, because what you're doing in essence is trying to instill an animalistic version of life for human beings. But I got news for Google. I got opposable thumbs. I walk on 2 feet, and I'll think or say any damn thing I want. You can censor all day long. It will never change what I do. It just won't.
Isn't that the same for anything that gets really big? Like eBay bought everything up. The laws and rules I was under, if a customer didn't like something, I had to sort it out ASAP. But eBay could spend as long as they wanted to sort it out, and I was paying for that.
Welcome to the age of technology, where the whole of humanity will be brought into a high-tech arena where what you can pull off is what you can pull off at your keyboard. So woe be the day that you go to your keyboard to get money from your bank or to send an email and then nothing happens. What do you do then? That's where all this is headed. And cryptocurrency, my God, cryptocurrency, all these 3 blind mice getting led into cryptocurrency. The day cryptocurrency is the main form of money in this world will be the day that humanity has lost more freedom than the entirety of human beings in this world. And, you know, people think they're subverting the central bankers. It's laughable. The central bankers had a hand in starting every major war that you were aware of, including World War I and World War II. So if you think that they don't have control of the Googles and other online purveyors and owners of information, I don't know what to tell you, but cryptocurrency doesn't do a damn thing to central banking. All it does is give them ultimate control, because no one knows who created it. No one knows who controls it. And if you log on and you can't get your money, what do you do then? It's ultimate control.
Yeah, that was 119 central banking. Wasn't it? Crow.
Yeah, Count the Ways, episode 119. It was funny. I always say count the ways in my show, and as we approached episode 119, my email blew up. Crow, count the ways. What's going to be that episode? You know, everybody was into it, and I thought to myself, boy, what a great thing to have people paying attention to such a trivial little thing like an episode number. That's people who are paying attention. Those are people who it will not be so easy to fool looking at the details in that way. So made me happy to see that.
Yeah, because everything's to do with numbers and dates and times and places, isn't it?
Always has been since we've had what we call civilization or organized slavery. These things are not going away. You know, there's a reason we went from the Julian to the Gregorian calendar. There's a reason for all these things, and they're all numerically represented. What it is basically, you could almost view it as computer programs that people wrote before computers came around. In other words, they created a way to track calendars in almost an algorithmic way. They were doing it by hand back then, but it's almost like, okay, today's numerical value adds up to this. We need to release a story on JFK to hold up that lie. We got to fake like we're sending someone to Mars. And by the way, you know, some other thing we've lied about. And that's what the system does. It tells them when to lie. It tells them when to cover up for past lies, like JFK's fake assassination. That's a lie they got to cover at the end of time, like the moon landing. There's a lie they got to cover till the end of time. And that's what the numeric system has brought us. And it's a perversion because, see, in the natural world that used to pre-exist, we only had 9 digits, 1 through 9. And if 0 was ever used, it was simply a placeholder. There was no consideration for something having no existence, because that goes against nature. So in that aspect, when it was looked at in a natural world, it wholly had a different interface with humanity. The perversion that we see now is just about controlling everyone and lying to them and convincing them to believe in things that have no reality.
The more they start to lose control, the more of us that wake up, the worse it's going to get, though, isn't it? It was never going to be easy, was it? If they spent all that time and lying and taking millions of dollars a day to pretend that they're going to space and all that crap. You know, they're not going to give in easy. It's going to get worse, isn't it, before it gets better, if you know what I mean, even though it's obviously shifting, because everything about them is just, whoops, sorry, it's my computer. Yeah, it's just.
If I had to guess, that's why they're pushing 5G along so quickly, because way too many people have been listening to shows like what you're doing, what I'm doing, what many people are doing, and coming to the realization that everything is not hunky-dory, and it's time for people to stand up and demand better. See, if they can get a 5G antenna on every street corner, guess what? What we need to pull off becomes a lot more difficult.
And also, since we've seen you, did you see that post about Buzz talking and saying that he didn't go to the moon?
Yeah, I felt sorry for that man when I saw that. I imagined in my mind the young Buzz Aldrin signing some hell-bent contract to act the part, if it's even the same guy. And then all I saw was a confused old man looking at a young child there, wishing he didn't have to lie. That's what I saw. It was sad. It was pathetic. But I'm sorry, you know, you made your bed, Buzz. Now you got to lay in it. The problem is the bed he made. Yeah.
I thought he was unemotional, considering that he was sort of admitting this big lie. And then it's a bit like the video was made 3 years ago, unless that person had it on private and then decided to let it out. The moment people started putting comments on there, they disabled the comments. And then, of course, anybody that mirrored it got a strike.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a sad day when a man, I guess in his 80s, if that's where Buzz is, has to look into the eyes of a child and regret the value, the balance sheet of a lifetime of lying. It's a sad moment. I felt pity for Buzz. I don't condone what he's done. It pisses me off, but he didn't make the lie. He was just one of the many actors, and probably as a young man got fooled into signing a contract, or Lord only knows, that he wishes he never would have seen. I don't know the story, but when I saw that clip, I felt pity.
No, I don't know really what to make of it, really, because the other thing as well is people noticed that his T-shirt wasn't the right year. It had Mars on it, and they weren't talking about Mars 3 years ago. So maybe it had been all doctored anyway, but it was a bit strange. I just thought he was a bit emotionless, considering he was just admitting a lie. I mean, surely the police should have come and arrested him.
Hard to arrest a corporation, right? So maybe Buzz Aldrin is just the straw man identity of a corporation.
If anything was real, then surely there should have been an investigation when an astronaut announces that he didn't go to the moon.
Who's going to come arrest him when the highest powerful reaches of the United States are protecting him?
Exactly.
What court are you going to take him to when the highest court in the United States is stacked and actually protecting the lie of corporation all the way up to its own hallowed halls, which are not hallowed at all? They might as well put a pitchfork in there and a bifurcated tail.
I mean, this is what I find really strange, that's pretty serious. Say that was really him, and 3 years ago he said to that little girl that he'd never been. Surely by now someone would have investigated it, because that's a pretty serious thing he just said.
No one will ever investigate it, because if anyone ever tried to do the right thing, they would probably be bought off or threatened with something so unacceptable that they would just shut up and go live their life again. That's a lie that needs to be protected to the end of time. But
so why do you think he said it then? Why do you think he came, why do you
because
think
he's an 80-year-old man looking into the eyes of anyone's child, and he regrets that he has to tell the lie to that little girl. That's what I think. You can see it all over his face. He wants to lie, but his mouth won't let him. His mouth keeps saying the truth,
Nope.
and his mind saying lie, Buzz, lie. It's a pathetic moment.
So if that little girl, because I mean, I went to the Space Centre up in Leicestershire. I met the big guy, and I met Martin Leakey, who's been in the chat room, and Nathan Oakley was there, and we were. The one thing I could see is that everybody was like in love with space. Look at the rocket. It was fake, but look at the rocket. Look at it. Everybody's in love with it. He just announced that he didn't go. This little girl would have been in love with it, but she didn't. Like, what? You didn't go.
Well, the ironic thing, and by the way, we were talking about going to Mars a lot longer than 3 years ago. So you can lay that one to rest. Mars has been on the agenda for a hell of a long time. But to put that into perspective, NASA flat out admitted that they'd never been above the supposed Van Allen radiation belts with the Orion missions, and that was 5 or 6 years ago. There's actual recorded footage of other supposed astronauts from the Orion mission admitting flat out that we can currently not go above what's called low Earth orbit. And that precedes Buzz's little altruistic moment by many years.
Yeah, so I just think that they know that they can get away with anything, really, if they've got away with pretending that we've been to the moon for the last sort of 40, 50, 60 years, and we've never been anywhere near it or been able to go anywhere into space and all that kind of stuff, and lied about all that.
Why do you think we're getting SpaceX?
Lying, and people, I'll tell you one thing I saw. It was about subversion, because that's what they've done. But there was a politician here, and I'm not saying he's the only one, but there was a politician here. Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name. He was trying to be the prime minister 6 years ago, and they were asking questions, and this reporter asked him 5 questions, but the reporter didn't realise he answered exactly the same thing 5 times. He just switched the words around, and then somebody outlined the words. So he just said, and so it's like, didn't anybody hear him just repeat the same thing 5 times? That's how stupid we are.
Well, you see, that's the thing. We've been convinced that's how stupid we are, but I'm here to tell you there's plenty of people around that I'm aware of that are not that stupid. The problem right now is there are tons of people who are not that stupid. That's what 5G is about. They need weapons on every street corner, so if people start to gather, they can disperse them. They need to get drugs handed out like candy, like opioids right now, or any other number of drugs, so they can drug the living bejesus out of people so that they won't stand up, because too many of us are no longer that stupid. The real problem here is that most of us don't realize how many people have actually caught on to this game because we don't control the information. I mean, how is it that when I do a search for something in Spain, I get my own name, your channel, Sage of Quay, and a handful of other people? That's my search return over and over and over. Are you telling me we're the only important searches in the world? It's ridiculous. It's information control. There are a lot of people out there who have caught on, and the jig is up, and that's why 5G is coming so quick.
Yep.
So none of that's good then, is it?
We'll see where this goes. We will see. I suspect when
5G, you can have faster internet.
Well, you can have augmented reality too. Yeah, you can put down those mushrooms. 5G will bring augmented reality.
I remember one day when they were breaking down this advert, what they did was, I don't need to say that word stupid again, because we kind of were. So what they're doing is they're going, hey, look at this television on your television. Look how good it is. You need one of these. And then everybody would go and buy them. But they didn't realise they were watching it on their own television, and it was fine.
That's funny.
Funny.
Here's something everyone could do, and I know most of the people listening are going to roll their eyes, but I'll say it anyhow. Matt Landman did it. I've done it. Go take in your broke down old smartphone and turn it in for a flip phone. Get rid of the smartphone. You see, if everyone got rid of their iPhone and went back to flip phone, the argument for 5G would begin to diminish pretty quickly. Right now, if I look at the stats on Crrow777radio.com, almost 80% of my audience is coming to me on handheld devices, you see.
I'm on my handheld.
I like carrying around a little mini.
Could you live without it, or would it kill you?
Well, it makes it tough to do work and hang out with you guys at the same time. So
there's the hook. There's the barb on the hook.
Man, I'm completely sucked in, man.
Hey, I've got some free heroin for you too. Just give me your address. I'll mail it to you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about opioids? I'll give you some opioids for free too.
Dude, I mean, everybody's addicted beyond anything I could ever imagine. You and I are about the same age, Crow. And I just can't believe how addicted we are to these phones, man. It's scary, man. I need to go camping for like a month.
You get emails, Facebook, Hangouts. You can get, Facebook, games.
Yeah.
You can get so much in one little place.
You're kind of garbling a little bit for me.
No robot.
Yeah, sorry. Occasionally, you've got everything on there on your phone. That's why emails, Facebook, Hangouts.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I got about 15 minutes left to give you because I've got a quick back-to-back. I got to go do Iron Realm Media. I didn't realize it was the same day, and I thought we were going to start at 2:30. So I've got about 15 minutes more.
I'm going to keep that 5 hours difference.
Is there Karen? Can you see the chat? Is there any questions in the chat for Crow?
Not right now. They're all talking about the stuff.
I thought I saw someone say something about music. They said music on Spotify. I didn't quite catch it. Someone was saying something about Crow music on Spotify. I hadn't heard of that.
You are looking at the chat room. Well, as we've only got you for another 15 minutes, what would you, I brought those up because that's on your channel. What would you like to talk about? Anything you'd like to?
I'll bring up a topic. A friend of mine just got a drone, and the video quality is sweet video quality. If I had to guess, it won't be much longer before people who want to fly a drone got to have a pilot's license and all these other licenses and file flight plans with the FAA and all this other nonsense. But it occurred to me that with a drone, you can change the angle dramatically of your point of view of the sun or the moon as examples. And lo and behold, I got sent a video this morning of a guy filming an apparent double sun using a drone at height. And I was talking to my friend, and he just sent his first drone back to get an even better one. Anyone out there who might have drones, start going up a few hundred feet, whatever you can do, and filming the sun and moon, because that angle change, I have a feeling we will be able to discover some really important things, because it is not difficult math for chemtrails and other things to block a point of view knowing what our angle is while we're on the ground. If you can go up 500 or 1,000 feet, you drastically change the angle or your point of view. And I'm already starting to see interesting videos.
Yeah, there's some great videos. There's a guy in Australia he's done the double sunset. He has a drone down on the ground, and then the sun sets, and he just takes his drone back up, and there's the sun again. That's pretty great.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, Crow, because I've watched high altitude balloons, and it's a bit like there should be one sun as it pans around 360 degrees, and it's a bit like as it was panning around, I just couldn't quite tell if there was a sun there and a sun there. And as it was going around, there was two suns. You know what I think?
What I think is the most likely explanation. And again, this is a wild ass guess because I haven't been able to study it firsthand. I do have one example with my telescope, filming in full spectrum through a solar telescope, where I picked up what might be a reflection. I think maybe that could be a reflection off what is called the firmament, what I call the hard, fast barrier. I think that's a possible explanation, but it needs a lot more work. Maybe it's a reflection.
We need to go up and we need to go down, but not up into space, but we need to, it's so much still to do, isn't there?
Yeah, you can't go to space. Nothing, not man, not machine. We're in a closed system. The alchemists were telling you the truth. There's a reason why one element transmutes into another element, The reason for that is because we're in a closed system and everything here that's all we got. What's here is what's here.
So what's going to be your next podcast then, or can't you tell us?
Actually, I don't think I can tell you because I'm not 100% sure. We've got 3 ready to go, but I'm not sure which one's going to be next. We may be getting Marty Leeds on. Jason follows everyone online, and I'm embarrassed to admit. I keep meeting people that Jason's all, what are you, crazy? You should know who these people are. I never do because I don't surf online. I don't watch the news. I don't, I just do my own thing.
Crow, you're a little too busy doing research.
Well, I would point out that when I do meet these people, sometimes it's really cool stuff. Like in Marty's case, he's a really good mathematician, which I am not. So that's possibly one of the shows we're going to have. And if that is true, I'd really like to get into some numerical ideas.
Yeah, I also very much appreciate, because obviously to me, you're the lunar wave man, but you actually cover so many different topics. I think that's really great.
God, I can't even think of, now when we get ready to do a show, it's difficult to think of things we haven't covered before.
Well, the government keeps coming up with new stuff, so don't worry, you'll never run out of material.
well, the illusion's not going away anytime soon, so.
That's right. I kind of, at some days, I thank them for giving us so much material to work with, because the lies are far and wide, man. Once you start digging into them, man, wow. You keep going. Anybody out in the chat?
Questions for Crow, because he's got to go soon. So just putting that in the chat room to see if any questions come in. Oh, I think that dude is lagging a bit.
I'm not hearing any of that.
Yeah, I think he lagged a bit. Just happens every now and again. I don't know whether the weather's changing or something. Billu says it's all eyes.
Seems like we're losing our Google signal here.
Yeah, the last couple of days it's been a little bit for everyone. No matter where everybody is, you, me. Yeah, Joe says that we're breaking up. So in a minute you're off to go and do
Iron Realm.
Iron Realm Media. Will you say hello to them for me?
Of course. He used to ask me on, every month or every other month. I used to do Billy Ray Valentine's show almost every Sunday, but he hasn't been broadcasting for a while. I think something happened there, but I suspect he'll be coming back. And it was kind of that whole gang of guys, the Hacker Hameen. Actually, Hacker Hameen's been running all my shows on Podbean. So thanks to the Hacker. But that's how I met Iron Realm. I think that's how I met Iron Realm.
Yeah. There is a question for you in the chat room. He says, this is obviously about the moon. Do we have any tech that could prove the flag isn't there where it's supposed to be?
Yes. There are certainly telescopes big enough to resolve that, but that's not even really the main argument. We were told the Hubble Space Telescope, which doesn't exist, couldn't possibly image it. Then they did image it. Go look up the images of the Hubble Space Telescope showing you the now tipped over flag on the moon, and then go look at up all the people who tell you why it's fraud.
It's a blurry cartoon.
It's all made up nonsense, but there are scopes big enough in this world to resolve. We used to be told there was no scope in the world that could resolve less than 1.5 miles. That's a lie. I have telescopes that can resolve much less than that. So the biggest telescopes in the world could do it. Besides, we're told there's 7-mile long buggy tracks How hard would it be to image something 7 miles long?
Don't see
Should
anything
be
like that.
pretty easy, I would think. Should be.
You're never going to find any.
With that 200-inch telescope.
Yeah, you're never going to find anything on the moon because the moon is not a place you can walk on. The moon is a luminary. The oldest writings we have in this world told the truth about the sun and the moon. There's a hard, fast barrier. There are no such thing as satellites. No one has ever gone above what we call low Earth orbit. In other words, no one's ever left our atmosphere. It can't be done. We live in a closed system.
Can I just say something?
Go, Patricia.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm just thinking. So you're telling me that these people that, I mean, I know it's all made up, but they went to the moon, but they couldn't even see what it was about first. That's a bit scary, isn't it?
Well, they knew. They've known all the power centers of this world have known the truth all along because they never lost the old natural sciences. What they did was invented science to come lie to everybody else. So everyone else has been following things that have nothing to do with nature. They know that the moon's not that far away. They also know you can't get to it. The problem is they started to lie. At some point, it's clear that when you've got airplanes, you're going to have to be able to go higher and higher, right? So they made up the lie. The first time the idea of space was really put into the public consciousness was in 1966 with Star Trek. And to this day, that is what most people think space looks like. And I'm here to tell you it's all a lie. No one's ever left this world, and they knew the truth and have always known the truth. The rulers have known the truth. There was never a time when they didn't.
Yes.
See, you've also got to realize that it's very likely that all the engineers that were working on a rocket to go to supposed space, those engineers thought that's what they were doing, but in fact what they were doing was creating technologies that were going to get used in some other way, just not in outer space, because outer space doesn't exist. You know, in some ways, the idea of outer space is like zero. Zero has no existence in a natural world. But you see, space is the same as that. We've been told that space is a vacuum. In other words, it's a place that doesn't exist, except we know it's right over our head, right? It's more illusion.
Yes, it is. Hey, Astral's joined us. Hello, Astral.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Crow.
Howdy.
Nice to hear your voice again. It's good.
Thank you.
It is. It's always nice to throw on. And we did actually cover quite a lot of stuff tonight. You know.
Yeah, we've had a terrible connection, and I'll tell you what, Jason and I have been having such a difficult time with Skype. We're now dumping Skype. We were forced into new versions of Skype. Every time we're recording a show and talking about things that matter, it drops out. So we're about done with that. And it seems like a similar thing is going on here too.
Yeah, but I think things changed. I think when these robot things came in last year, you know, when they roboted the internet, because everybody about the time of that moon eclipse, the moon eclipse with the sun in September, everybody started saying my internet's really bad, and a lot of us just haven't picked up. But I just wanted to know how it works because I'm on cable.
Well,
so why would mine keep?
Part of it could be is they're going to make the existing internet perform really poorly, so everyone's begging for 5G. Maybe that's part of the plan.
Yeah, I'm in that camp because the bandwidth is it's not what it used to be.
Well, you can either have lack of bandwidth or lack of cancer. Which one of those things would you choose?
No. Lack of cancer, pretty sure.
Yeah, lack of cancer, but that's not what they're telling you to get your iPhone. What was it on now? iPhone 7? Whatever they're
10.
on.
10.
I don't even know.
Crow, can I just interrupt? I don't know what you've been talking about. I've just got in now. I've not been listening to anything. So I don't know what you've been talking about, but I just want to say I was listening to a old podcast that you'd had. in regards to what's it called? 5G. When was this? The 5G podcast.
Oh, it's the last one we just did. We had Matt Landman back. Yeah, we've covered 5G before, but this time we did a no-nonsense version, partly to see if we got censored. The things we talk about in this latest episode are things that probably would have got us censored last September. But
it didn't happen, right?
I didn't even get the ads pulled. So we kind of feel like censorship is ramping up. You know, they're trying to make all the political election nonsense. They're trying to attach that to conspiracy theories. But I'm starting to say in each of our shows, we don't do conspiracy theory. We research everything. How is that conspiracy?
Yeah, exactly. I would just like to say that, you know, something that I read upon or heard upon, this microwave technology that in Russia, they kind of like said, to guys that have got children, it's all right, but if you haven't got children, then you're not allowed to work in the microwave department or whatever it is, you know, obviously, because they're going to fry their testicles, aren't they?
Right. There's like we did cover that earlier, as far as I know. And I've had two people who claim to have been in Russia, lived there, confirm that sometime in the early 70s, microwave ovens were outlawed because they're known to be harmful to human beings.
We can do tests. We can verify exactly what happens. You know, if we like cook water or whatever, you know, and different things, we know it's not bad. Microwaves, they are not good for us. You know.
No, they're not. Well, hey, I
can tell you a funny story about a microwave. My aunt got one in like 1960. And she lived in a kind of a rural part of town, and all the town heard that you could cook a chicken in like 10 minutes, you know. So the whole town came by her house to look at this microwave. It was a big deal, man, because back then, you know, it takes an hour or so to cook a chicken, you know. And if you could cook one in 10 minutes, man, that was a big deal. Anyway. I thought it was kind of funny.
Well, that's how we got sold on it. When I was a kid, you were told you could cook a hot dog in a minute. That was the big selling point.
Yeah.
There you go. I mean,
one though, don't they, microwave? But then you learn what it's all about. I don't really use mine anymore.
Yeah, but if you think about it, Karen, right? Cook food in 30 seconds. Piping hot, 30, 40 seconds. I mean, come on, something not right about that. For the first thing, we're it's like, well, it's a cartoon in a sense, if you know what I mean. We're not. It's not real, is it? In that sense, we're speeding up the process. And if you're hurrying a process, speeding up the process, it's not taking the time it needs to take in order for it to be like, you know, proper. If you understand what I'm saying.
There's not much alchemy involved.
Yeah, but that's where I'm coming from. Like, you know, if something's too fast, then it's I don't know. I mean, unless it's like a lightning bolt, boom, hits the ground, it makes some sort of pattern or whatever, then okay, that's fair enough. But when you talk about heating up food, warming up food, no, I'm just. I mean, even when the first microwaves came out way back when, you know, I was always like, I didn't understand it. You know, how can it not melt the plastic? How is it that this metal is
because it affects water?
Not spark?
Right, it affects only water. But I'll tell you what, Gerson, I've mentioned many times the Gerson method, which has been proven to cure endless numbers of cancer with only fruit juice or vegetable juices. In a book she published many years ago, she said, never get near a microwave, never use it, don't use tin foil. And by the way, if you boil water in a microwave, you've ruined the water. And with the work of Dr. Emoto, we've started to understand that water has memory. Yeah. So a thing that is done to water is, you know, remembered by that water, which is scary. But I'll tell you what, man, it's 4:30 here. I've got to actually get a sandwich or something and eat before I go on Iron Realm in a few minutes here. So is there anything else you want to cover?
So much. Thank you so much for being here, Crrow777. Very much appreciate it. And a big kiss from us. And
all right, thank you so much. And we have to remember between us, I'm 5 hours behind you. So if we do this again, we'll get the time right.
Smack my hand. 5 hours.
That's all right. I'm to blame too. I should have looked it up the first time you sent it. I knew better. It happens a lot with a lot of people, so I should always look it up myself anyhow, just to be sure. But anyhow, I hope to see you all next Thursday for 122.
Love you, Crow.
And Sun and Moon and the chat room, very much appreciate your friendship. Thank you so much, Crow.
All right.
Can I just say, if people are going to subscribe to Crrow777 or look for him on the internet and whatever, you know, make sure you spell it correctly. Crow with 2 R's, please. You'll probably get better hits in that sense. You know, duck go. Don't use Google. Crow, I love everything you do, brother. Seriously, you and Jason are awesome, and it's a pleasure to have you on board, listening to you. And I've got to listen to this again, actually, because I came in late, as I say. But I love you, brother. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. The show's about to get a lot better because I think I finally talked Jason into ditching his corporate job, so he'll be with me full time. Anyhow, everyone in the chat room, thank you so much. Love y'all. Have a great night. Have a higher-minded year ahead, and everybody be healthy. There it is, man. Cheers.
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 Thanks.
Are we staying on? Going off?
No, let's stay on. I've only been here 10 minutes, guys.
Yeah, well, we may not stay on too much longer because, you know, we had quite a long, well, it was a great hangout last night, but it was quite a long hangout and stuff. But that was an amazing hangout. We sure did cover quite a lot of stuff. He's such a nice man, Crrow777.
Awesome.
Really good that. And anyway, if you watch him, he never stays too long anywhere. An hour and a half. Even his podcast he put out are about 50 minutes, an hour.
You know, the guy is structured when he says,
I have
to go. And he goes. Karen, we can say, like, right, we're going to have to say goodbye now. And then an hour later, we're still going. Or even 3 hours later, we can still be going.
Yeah, he goes, I'm going and I want to go. Yeah.
Exactly. He does it.
But, you know,
respect.
Sun and Moon, I love that we have him on our panel and that he's here to talk to us all. So very much appreciate him coming on. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, super shout out. Super shout out. Shout out. It's a shout out. Like a
yeah, I think everybody enjoyed
super
that
shout
one.
out. Super shout out to Crow. Thank you, Karen. Super shout out to you too. It's great to just pick his mind a little bit sometimes. He's a great researcher. If you don't sub, you know, it's $5 a month for
the extra.
You know, it's not even a cup of coffee, man. I think I'm paying $5.50, you know, for like a Starbucks or some shit.
You know,
it's really worth it. It's really, really worth it. He goes into really, really deep stuff in that second hour that he can't do on, you know, like YouTube and stuff, because then he'll get strikes.
Yeah, and they say
it's
$5.
Really worth that $5.
$5 exactly, and it's a cup of coffee in it.
I've been a member since show number 8. Where's he at now?
120 something in it.
On 121.
121 shows. So he gives you 121 hours free.
Exactly.
For $5, you can go back and listen to all 120 the second hours for $5. That's what I did. You know, I went back and listened to the previous shows, and it was really worth it, man. I learned so much from that guy, man. Thank you, Crow.
Yeah,
anyway,
cheers, Crow. Cheers, Jason. Thank you, Flat Earth
Jason.
Dude.
No, don't forget Jason. Oh,
yeah,
man.
You know, I have to say this. When it comes to researchers, I do not know anybody who researches as thoroughly as what these guys do. I mean, seriously, if you want to know something, just find Crrow777 Radio and you'll learn. You will learn so much. You'll learn so much knowledge in 1 hour. Seriously.
Changed my life, man. I mean, he made me think about things differently, especially like the Hollywood and the Tavistock and everything, man, from television. He did like a couple of shows on television, music. I mean, all that music, all that crazy stuff that goes on behind the scenes with the music industry. Great stuff, man. The Beatles. Don't forget, he did like 16 hours of NASA. dude, ripping it apart, piece by piece by piece, man, ripping it.
Never
Yeah,
actually
anyway.
says he's a flat earther. Everything he talks about is a flat earther.
Right. Yeah, he's in his own camp with the flat earth thing. And that's cool, man. But he's putting out great content, great information.
Yeah, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt.
Without a doubt, man. I mean, I'll argue him from here to the moon.
I think. Quote me if I'm wrong now, right? There's a few people that I truly respect for all their, research and things that they do. Crrow is one of them. Jason's another. And then you've got Marty Leeds, of course. I mean, these guys, they get to the bottom of things,
And Martin,
if you want
Martin, he's doing his all that mud flood stuff.
Yes, Martin Leedke.
All those, everybody, man, has been doing a great job, and even Crrow is, commending everybody for doing everything they're doing. It's awesome. Anyway, I yield the floor. I'll be back. I'll be back in a minute.
Together we are better.
Yeah, questioning things. I've been flat smacking. I don't know how many people today. I've been on a mission. Seriously, I'm a bit upset, and because I was a bit upset, things in my personal life, I needed to vent. So I've been out and I've been flat smacking people left, right, and centre. I mean, we've got this. The town I live in, they're having like a kind of a festival this whole week. It ends on Sunday. So this is last weekend, obviously Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Live music, loads of people in town. So I went downtown and I didn't go into the thing but I came away and I started talking to people. The first guy I met was a guy from I would say, I'm not going to say Lithuania because it wasn't Lithuania, but Latvia, Lithuania, one of those eastern, what's the sea called? Yeah, close to Sweden, next to Finland, not quite
Norway.
Russia. No. I'm talking more Eastern Bloc countries, but North and Eastern Bloc countries, Russia, the former, I can't remember the name, like White Russia and whatever, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. He's from one of them countries. I can't remember exactly. He's called Sergei. Sergei, if you're listening, nice talking to you today, brother. Anyway, we had a very, very, very...
I wanted to say something, Astral.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you're good. I'll tell you what I'm doing tonight. I'm flat smacking Hollywood Boulevard.
Yes.
Can't wait. I got 30 of these flyers.
Nice.
I printed.
Nice. Oh, I need that. I need that link, man. I want them.
I got that one. Roxanne talked about it yesterday. It was what the heck was the name of the site? It was some dude. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, tonight on Flat Earth Hollywood channel, I'll put a link in the chat or something. But I'm going to be out there really, really late for anybody in the UK, or really early in the morning. But I'm going to be handing out these flyers. I've got some other ones that are really nice.
What you're doing with Dan?
I'm doing with Dan, yeah.
Dan the Waterman.
Dan the Waterman. And we're going to flat smack Hollywood Boulevard tonight. I got the big ones. I got the cognitive dissonance one. That one.
Yeah.
I'll hand that to people and see if they can identify with it.
Can you actually lift that up and read it off, please, so that we can hear what it says?
Here we go. Well, you've seen John Smith Globe.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I've never actually seen it. I've never actually seen it. I'll read it to see what it says.
Well,
I've seen he hands it to people, they read it, and then, oh yeah, I agree with that.
Sometimes people hold a core belief that is very strong. When they are presented with evidence that works against that belief, the new evidence cannot be accepted. It would create a feeling that is extremely uncomfortable called cognitive dissonance. Because it's so important to protect the core belief, they will rationalize, ignore, and even deny anything that doesn't fit into their core belief. That's the definition.
Cool, man.
Cool, right?
Cool.
Anyway,
Cool,
on this
so
flyer,
true,
the flyer, I've got we got the curvature chart. We got the Isle of Man. 65 miles. You can still see the wind turbine.
Windmills. Yeah.
Windmills.
The windmills there.
We've got the temperature of the atmosphere versus
melting points.
The melting points of titanium and aluminum. And then we got the thermosphere's temperature, of course, is way hotter than the two melting points.
Yes, exactly.
We got the two different size globes. So yeah, it's a good flyer, and it came out really, really nice. They're real shiny.
Hey, I have a question. This is only a thought that I've been thinking. Like today on my way home, like walking along, thinking things. When we see from the ISS the Earth, or when we see pictures from space, we always have this orientation of the Earth as it is. Like we see north as north and south as south. Why is it never the opposite way? If you understand what I'm saying, we never see the Earth like obscure, different, we never see it like tilted this way or tilted that way, or we always see it north is north and south is south. North as up and south as down. Or is it just me that I've not seen enough? But that's what I seem to find as a general consensus, that most of the pictures that we're seeing, most of the images that we're seeing, we're seeing the Earth as north up, south down. Why is it never like the south is, to the east of or like 9 o'clock as we look at it, and the north would be at 3 o'clock. We never see the Earth like that. We always see it way we see it, as we see it, like when the news comes on the TV. The north is north, the south is south. Do you know what I mean?
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, it's weird, man. So many things to keep looking into, man.
Dude, when are you going off to your venture out onto Hollywood then?
Okay, I'm going to leave 9 o'clock tonight. Which...
How long's that?
Is that 4 in the morning? And then I'm meeting Dan about 10:30, 10. Yeah, on Hollywood Boulevard. And it's just him and I, guaranteed. We're going to live stream to Flat Earth Hollywood channel. All one word. Again, let me put a link in. And we'll see how it goes. We're going to have lab coats, and we've got the big giant globe thing, or the Flat Earth model that lights up. We've got lighted up signs that light up, say the Earth's flat. I'm going to be asking people questions. I'm with my lab coat and my clipboard. I got my clipboard. And I'm just going to ask people questions like I'm doing a survey. Let's see how well they know the Earth that they supposedly live on.
Exactly.
Right?
I've asked at least 15 people tonight.
And they don't know anything.
Do you know how big the Earth is? No. How far away is the moon from the Earth? No, we don't know.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, I've asked at least 15 people, probably in the region of about 24 or something. But no one knows, And I've smacked everybody tonight. And I've been very, very friendly, very, very open. And, what do you call it? Forthcoming, very open. I'm just asking them, can I ask you a question? They're like, yeah. I say, okay, it might sound a bit strange, but do you believe that man has landed on the moon? And most people said, yes. I think 2 guys were, I'm a bit, I don't know, out like 20 odd people. 2 people, I would say 2 people anyway, were a little bit hesitant, but the rest, they said, yeah, we landed on the moon. And I've questioned it. Okay, if we're to leave atmosphere of the Earth, we need to travel at 17,500 miles an hour. Now, 17,500 miles an hour is pretty fast. Think about how fast that is. You know,
it's ridiculously fast, right?
Well, yeah. When you say 17,500 miles an hour, it sounds fast. But when you look at it in terms that we can relate to in that sense, you can't relate to that. 17,000 miles an hour, man.
No,
You can't relate to that. And I say to them, the G-force alone, what G is that? I mean, man, you've got to be dead. You cannot survive that. Surely nobody can survive going at that speed, you know, and live to tell the tale. I beg to differ. If someone can do it, please let me know. You know,
dude,
Buzz Aldrin, did you really do that or what? Because I don't believe it. Sorry.
Hey, yeah. CD's just subbed to you, Flat Earth Dude.
Cool. Anybody wants to sub? I left the link in the chat. It's not it's not my channel. It's Dan's channel actually, and he's only got a couple videos on there. But we're gonna live stream to that channel tonight because it's Flat Earth Hollywood. Hello, and we'll see how it goes. I have no idea. I'll be out there. And thank you guys for subbing. Appreciate it. Dan appreciates it. Yeah, just come by. I'll try to take a look at the chat and stuff while we're live streaming. But we're gonna try to do like interviews, like I do over there at the, at the Flat Earth meetups and stuff. Exact same kind of thing going on. But instead of talking to flat earthers, we're gonna be talking to globe heads.
You never know.
Did I lose you guys? Hey, you know what? If any of you guys, we're going to be at Hollywood and Highland. Hollywood and Highland. Anybody knows where that is? That's where we'll be.
Yeah.
All right.
You're putting out, Flat Earth Dude's putting out where he's going to be later on tonight. If anybody's in California or anybody that comes across his hangout in the next couple of hours.
Hollywood and Highland.
Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard and Highland Boulevard.
Hey, I would like to say, just sorry to interrupt you there, Flat Earth Dude. I would like to say, if there are any flat earthers here in Denmark in the vicinity of this town, Randers, contact me. Come on, and we can get together and we can have a hangout. We can, meet up, and it can't only be me. I know that it's not only me. We are many people. We just need to get together. So. Du ska bara kom stark igår, så kontakta mig. Så är det fint. Tack, hi. I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Astral. Patricia, are you still there, Patricia? Patricia?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I had to.
You even asked a question today.
You sound surprised, Karen.
It's always good to hear from you, Patricia.
I get sick of hearing my own voice, to be honest, so I don't like talking up.
We did cover quite a lot today, didn't we?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. We've been going for nearly 2 hours now, and Flat Earth Dude can go and get ready for going out later on. Because he's got a big evening.
I'm gonna need to take a nap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor, Flat Earth Dude tonight. Well, that's what you'll look like anyway. You got little badges on saying Flat Earth.
I've got a Flat Earth t-shirt, Flat Earth hat. I've got the flyers. I've got a Flat Earth t-shirt for Dan. He doesn't have one. And we'll be shouting out to all of you for sure, and it'll be fun.
Can I ask you, Kenny, what time, or if not what time, when are you going on? Like, how many hours from now?
Okay, it's 2:00 now, so 8 o'clock would be 6 hours. So in about 8 hours, we're gonna start.
You're going to start in 8 hours.
Right.
Yeah, they're 8 hours behind.
All right. Well, that's Saturday morning for me then. 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, you'll be up.
Call me up, please. Will you call me in the morning? I'll get up. I'll get up at 6:30. I will. I'll get up at 6:30, man. I promise you.
9, 8 hours will be 8:30, 6:30 in the morning for you.
Right. So it's early morning for you guys. Anyway.
And
then we're planning on doing 3 hours live. So that's the plan.
Might be awake then to see it. But anyway,
thank you for letting me shout that out, Karen. We'll see how it goes.
And I hope it goes really good for you. And
I'll be fine.
Thanks, and thanks, Astral, and thanks to everybody in the chat room.
Crow.
Really,
thanks, Patricia.
Amazing. Well, all of them are amazing, but yeah, thank you everybody in the chat room. Morning, afternoon, evening, and to everyone on the panel and to Crrow777. So we'll be back on Monday.
Love you all.
Love you all. Have a good weekend. And
big hugs.
Bye.
Big hugs.